Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. Really wonderful show planned for today. We have the director of sports performance from Athletic Lab, and he is an internationally renowned coach and expert in athletic development. He has worked at U.S. Olympic Training Centers. He's a sports scientist, a coach. He's got all sorts of degrees. He can tell you much more about what he does because it's just quite impressive. It really shows just how amazingly complicated and amazing athletic and optimum athletic performance is. No one better to talk about that than our guest today, Dr. Mike Young. Dr. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for the invite, Jonathan.
Hey, Mike. Well, just to get started, can you tell us a little bit about your story? Because you really are on the front lines of elite athletic performance training.
So I come from a track and field background and have been a longtime lover of sports science. From as early as about 12 years old, I've been devouring training manuals just as a hobby. And that led me to becoming a coach and sports scientist after my athletic career was done. For a while, I worked primarily with track and field athletes at the collegiate level, then decided to open my own training center called Athletic Lab in Cary, North Carolina, where we train everyone from high school athletes to general population looking to get extremely fit to the elite professional or Olympic athlete looking to bring home a medal. And right now I'm also working with an MLS club in Vancouver, Canada, as their director of high performance and strength and conditioning. And really I have a couple different passions. Obviously, one of them is sports performance, but as I've worked with more and more athletes, I see the bigger picture and see that sports and sports performance in general is really just a medium to allow people to achieve their goals, and that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. Committing to committed people who are willing to achieve their goals.
Mike, in your introduction there, you mentioned a couple things. You said people who want to get extremely fit, elite athletes, professionals. What have you noticed in your practice is the biggest difference between, or some of the biggest differences between the way you would train and approach someone whose goals are to be extremely fit, to bring home literally a gold medal, or because they're getting paid to be athletic? What's the difference in approach for those people than, say, someone who just wants to not get diabetes?
I'd say the biggest difference is balance. So I think of things operating in terms of a wellness, health, performance continuum. And for 90+% of the population, what they really need is to be in the wellness and health portions of that continuum. And a lot of that goes to balance. If you're trying to really push the limits of the human body and see what you can get away with, balance flies out the window. You have to be on the cutting edge. You have to put in more hours than you think you need to. You have to put a little more weight on the bar than you need to. You have to be living the lifestyle that maybe isn't as conducive to being the best husband or being the best friend or going out and having a great time. So you have to eliminate a lot of balance if you're trying to be so focused on developing one aspect of your life. And in some ways, it's a little bit selfish. Many Olympians will tell you this. But in terms of just the general population who are looking for wellness and health and maybe pushing a little bit in towards performance, that you don't need to do all that. And because part of that balance is or unbalanced approach that it takes to get to the elite level also comes with risk. So these are the guys that may get hurt. They may get hurt from doing that little extra training. They may deal with various overuse injuries. They may deal with overtraining syndromes. They may have difficulty with sleeping. They have to adjust their diet. They have to adjust their entire lifestyle. And this isn't the case with people in the health and wellness side of the continuum. And if you're not getting paid to do it, I would strongly suggest not acting like you are, because with the risk that it takes to get to the elite level, or with the reward that it takes to get to the elite level, there's a lot of risks. And for your person that has to show up at work the next day, they can't afford to do that with a hamstring injury that doesn't allow them to walk, or being so sore that they can't go up and down the stairs or sit down on the toilet. So we need to really look at what is best for the individual. And I'm finding that we can improve general population to high levels of performance, but it just comes, and do it safely, but it just comes down to doing it in a balanced manner where they can still live a healthy lifestyle without having the risks that a professional or Olympic athlete might incur.
It sounds like there's a calculation of marginal cost versus marginal benefit that you're describing here. And if that's correct, what would you say we can learn and get the most marginal benefit from? When I say we, I mean non-professionals, just the lay population, individuals to whom balance is very important. How can we get the most marginal benefit, and what can we learn from the elite athletic community?
I think you hit it right on the head when you said that you can learn a lot from what elite athletes are doing, and you don't have to do everything they're doing to achieve a lot of the benefits. I really think or believe a lot in the 80-20 rule, meaning that you can get a lot of the results, a large majority of the results, from just a little bit of the factors that are allowing people to achieve success. If we're looking at elite athletes, they're chasing after that last 1% and 2% improvement that put them on the medal stand, or that put them in the NBA or the NFL or whatever the case may be. If you're not looking for that, if you don't need that, if that might actually be a bad life choice for you, then you want to go for that 20%. Look for that 20% that is common amongst all performers at the elite level, and see what they're doing. Chasing after that or training for that, whether it be in diet or in sleep habits or in training, that's what you need to take care of. So what I'm finding is that there's certain things that everyone needs to do. We need to do, your general population person, as we all know, has balance. We can't train for 20 plus hours in a week. So we need to trim things down to the essentials to figure out what can we do to get the maximum return on our investment. And a lot of that comes to what your fitness goals are. Are you looking to lose weight? Are you looking to gain strength? Are you looking to put on a little bit of muscle size? In general, I find that the most bang for your buck in terms of fitness training, and perhaps one of the most neglected aspects of fitness training amongst people who are not getting the results they need, is intensity. People are simply not training hard enough. And one of the things that I try to do at my training center with our general population members is that we bring intensity into their training. We make it competitive. We put more weight on the bar. We ask them to do a couple more reps. And this is something that the person who has never competed in sports or never done any athletics at a high level may not have ever experienced in their whole life. It may be unfamiliar to them. But this is the type of intensity and drive that it takes to get results out of a program, especially when you're putting in minimal time and you're not going after that last 1%. So you have to work. You have to put in the work. The idea that something is easy and can be effective at the same time is really somewhat of a myth. If you're not training at least a little bit hard, then, or occasionally with high intensity, then you're not going to see the results that you want.
Mike, am I understanding correctly that you said this idea that it can just be easy is certainly a myth if you want to get results, but with increased intensity, I would imagine there is a inverse relationship between the more intense you train, the less frequently and often you can train like you can't sprint as long as you could walk. So you're doing a trade of you can have more time and you can get more results if you just spend that little or smaller amount of time. You're not going to be going for a 2-hour jog, doing something that is more intense. Is that fair?
That's 100% correct. That's the beauty of it, really, is that if you train hard and do it intelligently, you'll be able to get a lot of bang for your buck. Your time investment will be relatively minimal, and you'll get great fitness results out of that training program. There have been times in my life when I've been starting up a business or traveling a lot that I've been only able to train for a total of 20 minutes to an hour in a whole week, divvied up in, say, 10-minute segments over the course of the week. And I've been able to maintain my fitness for a month or a month and a half at a time on just that minimalistic training. But the key there is that I'm working pretty hard for those 10 or 15 minutes that I am training. So you can get a lot of results out of minimal time investment. You just have to be willing to work for it.
Mike, can you dig into and let's geek out a little? It's totally fine to let's get sciencey here. Why is it that, or is it? I don't want to lead you. Is it that 2 minutes of, let's say, like a burst-based training can give you such amazing results and potentially even results that you couldn't get through 2 hours of walking? Like, what's going on differently in the body?
Well, I'll start off with a simple analogy. If we were to take something like sprinting or a 1-rep max in squatting, or use your burst training example and confine it to 2 to 5 minutes, or say a Tabata squat routine, that's like hitting the body with a sledgehammer. You don't have to do very much for that single strike to have a lot of effect. The 2 hours of running, which there's no problem with, certainly if you're going to be a marathoner, you need to put in that level of work. The 2 hours of running is like hitting your body with a ball-peen hammer. It takes a lot of work to get similar results. With intensity comes more changes in practically every physiological aspect of performance. We're seeing that in just 4 minutes of hard, intense training, you can increase your VO2 max. You can increase your lactate threshold. If you set things up correctly, especially in non-highly trained individuals, you can even see extreme increases in strength and power. So you can get a lot of work done in the 2 to 4 minute block. The key, though, is that it's tricky to do it safely without also adding a lower intensity warm-up. So usually I don't recommend chasing these 2 or 4 minute workout routines that have become relatively common on the web now. You'll see them being publicized fairly sensationally as a get fit fast routine. I think you do need to put in a little bit of time, at least 20 minutes or so. But if you train hard and use 5 to 10 minutes of that 20 minutes to warm your body up, to incorporate some mobility work, etc., you'll be able to attack all aspects of fitness and get extremely fit in a minimal amount of time.
Mike, I love that you brought up safety, because the immediate place most people's minds go to when they think of increasing intensity is, I'm just going to go do sprints. And if I understand correctly, this is an oversimplification. There's 2 ways to increase intensity for the lay person. One is to do something faster, and the other is to do it with more resistance. And in some ways, those are actually the same thing, but let's not split hairs. It seems like if I had to choose between sprinting as fast as I could, like on a flat plane, and doing something with less impact and higher resistance, that the latter is going to be still I can go super intense. However, it's much lower likelihood of injury. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Just to put some context to that, with my elite sprinters, for safety and for a couple other reasons, but primarily to ensure that they're warm, we go through a warm-up routine that takes about 45 minutes to an hour. The better you are at sprinting, the more potentially injurious it is, because the loads and forces that you place on the body are extreme. They are 3+ times body weight loads at impact. On a single leg, we're seeing intramuscular forces of around 15 times body weight. So the likelihood of hurting yourself in full blast sprinting is very high. Now, sprinting is a fantastic activity for improving fitness, but to do it safely, regularly, you need to put in a significant amount of warm-up, especially as you become more competent at sprinting. Because when you become more competent at sprinting, things like your ability to sprint faster, your ability to fire more muscle fibers, your ability to move the limbs a little bit faster, all increase, which increases the likelihood of your injury. So if we're talking about working with general population, yes, I do like to sprint. We'll do it sparingly, just simply because of the reasons that I've mentioned. We'll do it under the context of a longer warm-up. But I think for general population looking for increasing their fitness to the highest level with a relatively minimal time input, I think we do need to look at other means. So that could be using your body weight. That could be using an external load like a weight. And, there are a lot of routines out there from HIIT to CrossFit that use these methods in varying degrees of safety to achieve those results. And I think the proof somewhat is in the pudding. We've seen it anecdotally for a while, and now we're seeing it also in research studies on those methods as well.
Mike, so we have in some ways a spectrum, it would seem, for the typical person, where on one end it's no external load, and therefore the only lever you have to increase intensity is speed. So it's like sprinting, you have to sprint faster. That is how you increase load. On the other end of the spectrum, you would have resistance training and potentially even super slow resistance training, because you are using an external load, not speed, to increase resistance, and in fact maybe minimizing speed in an effort to preserve safety and things like that. So where on that spectrum would you think that maybe, let's say not even, because in this country the typical individual is significantly overweight. So we're not even talking about an individual who may be able to go sprint. Where should that individual start on that spectrum?
I think it's a fairly complex question, probably beyond the scope of a 20-minute interview. But I would say this: in the case of someone like that, safety should always come first, because as soon as a person gets hurt, compliance immediately drops. So if we're looking to move from unhealthy to healthy, or from healthy to fit on that continuum, we can't have the person get hurt and miss 3, 4, 5 days of training, because it's likely that they may not ever return to training. They could say in their mind, hey, I gave it a shot and it didn't work, or I got hurt. I worked out really hard and it didn't work out for me. I ended up getting hurt. So we need to set things up so that we can ease people into a training routine that allows them to improve fitness, but not get greedy with it. You can get really fit really fast on these high intensity routines, but if you're greedy with it, you'll get hurt pretty quickly. And part of that comes to why I said this is a fairly complex issue. And it's complex because I don't think you need to put yourself in a box and say, we just need to do super slow, or we just need to do this or do that. You can kind of have it all, but you want to be rotating a little bit. Keep safety first, but you want to have an alternation of training means so that your body isn't seeing the exact same thing every single time. That comes from both an external load standpoint, comes from a speed standpoint, but also comes from an intensity standpoint. One of the knocks against a lot of the high intensity fitness routines, CrossFit especially, is that it's high intensity all the time. And when the durations are super short and the intensity is super high and it's done on a daily basis, the likelihood for injury goes up substantially. We want to make sure that athletes have an alternation of training means so that at least they have some down periods. They can rest and recover from their really high intensity days, and then they'll be able to perform and attack the high intensity days harder when they do get back to them. So you can really get as creative as you want to, again, keeping safety as your first priority with the general population. But there's nothing, I would say, that is off limits, even high-level plyometrics or sprinting outside of perhaps extremely obese populations.
Mike, you have great work taking place on your site and your lab, your physical lab, and folks can learn more about that at athleticlab.com. You're also very active on Twitter at just hashtag or at Mike Young. What's next for you, both professionally and personally?
Well, I'm kind of open to a lot of things right now. I'm working with this MLS club in Vancouver, and I'm really enjoying myself. I think Vancouver's one of the best cities in the entire world. I'm enjoying working with inside of professional soccer, but I'm also looking to develop the business side of things. I have one facility in North Carolina, Athletic Lab. We're looking to expand into maybe 2 or 3, keeping the quality of coaching extremely high, and expanding into more professionals and more general fitness. As I grow older and move further and further away from my former competitive career, I look around and see what's happening in North America with the health crisis. I see that a lot of what someone like myself can be involved in and help and contribute to society is not with helping people win Olympic medals, which is my passion. I really do like high performance athletic training. But the larger picture is that providing sensible, science-based training, nutritional advice, lifestyle advice on ways that people can become more healthy. It really depresses me to see people who are 20 years old and morbidly obese, or to see the 3 and 4 year old child who looks like they're pre-diabetic and is already potentially ruined much of their life because they have been allowed to live a lifestyle that is sedentary and lacking in appropriate nutrition. So I'd like to continue to provide nutrition and pathways, nutrition and wellness advice and pathways and training for that type of population. I think I have a broader audience in that and can make a larger difference in the community and society in general. So continue supporting elite athletes, continue allowing them to pursue their dreams while also helping the larger picture of North America improving their health and wellness.
Certainly a profound and wonderful goal, Mike. And listeners, let's all support Mike in his efforts to help us live a better life on a more macro and general scale. And we can do so by checking him out at athleticlab.com, as well as chatting with him on Twitter at Mike Young. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
Listeners, again, we've been talking with Dr. Mike Young. You can learn more about him at athleticlab.com. Also check him out on Twitter at Mike Young. And I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. And please remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.